Hi, and welcome to my session about Azure Policy and Azure Security Center. I will say your cloud guards. Yeah, happy that you are here, and have a lot of topics in this session, and I hope I can give you a good overview and good insights about these different topics. And yeah, so I think we can go start and go dive into the session. Here where I'm Gregor Reimling, a cloud consultant, cloud solutions architect, whatever you will say, and working in Germany near Cologne at a small consulting company, and I'm in different Azure projects underway. Governance, migration projects, defining landing zones, and so on. And yeah, I have a Twitter account, so when you will reach me, you can reach me via Twitter. Please feel free to reach me when you have questions to the session, to different functionality, whatever you want. You can also take a look at my blog. Here you'll find me there a lot of information about Azure infrastructure and governance topics. So feel free to take a look and to leave some comments. I'm really appreciate this. And I have also Azure Meetup, Azure Bond Meetup, where we will discuss different topics around the Azure world. Okay, enough to me. We're going to the session. So the agenda looks like quite small, but we have these are two big topics. We will going firstly to the Azure policy, how it works, you can define different topics, different policies. Then we will take a look at the Azure Security Center, how this is important, how can you using Azure Security Center to secure your environment, and we will see how these different sessions or services working together in the backend. I will give you a summary and some additional links so that you can take a look at some additional informations and going deeper into these two big services. Okay. Yeah, firstly, before we going into this word about Azure Policy and Azure Security Center, I will give you a short overview about why Azure, why we use these services. And this is quite simple. When you start with Azure, or when you're in a project with Azure, it's not important on which stage you are at the beginning, in the mean term of a cloud project, but take a look and use Azure Governance. And here you see Azure Governance House, where I have different topics around the governance itself. And when I take at different customers, I see a lot of frictionless, because why we want to use cloud. And so when you start using cloud and define a strategy, what impact must the cloud have, or have the cloud for your business? Why you will use cloud services? Why this is important for your business? What do you think is an additional service for you, a benefit? And think about this. Define these benefits for you, and then start with cloud services and with cloud usings. You see different topics here around the connectivity and the identity world with Azure AD, the Azure Advisor. It's also a big and good topic to get informational around different services from the Azure environment. Cost management, really important. I see a lot of customers, they doesn't have a good cost management, but you need this in the cloud world because it's flexibility, functionality, and you will track a good cost management. And also management groups can be helpful at different layers. But for the topics today, we are focusing on Azure Policy and Azure Security Center. And from my perspective, it's also really helpful and give you a good overview and good possibilities to define a good governance landscape for your environment. Okay, so firstly, when we take a look at Azure Policy. And Azure Policy, it's a if not, it's a service available since 2018 and has different options, but in general, Azure Policy is really helpful to define secure and to define guardrails for your cloud environment, because which services you can use, in which countries or in which regions you can enroll services, which policies are available, which will you enroll for your services, and all what you need to define good guardrails for your environment. All this can you do with Azure Policy. And Azure Policy has three mainly topics. The first one is the biggest one. This is the enforcement and compliance topic. And when we take a look at this, we have different services. And when you start using Azure Policy, you have quite a lot of services and policies available, templates, in general 500 available right now. And the really important thing here is with Azure Policy, you can define guardrails for your environment and at different scopes. You have two options with Azure Policy. You can say, I will monitoring my environment. I will take a look, it's my environment compliant with my set guardrails, it's compliant with my rules, and then you check the compliance of your environment. You can also take advantage with the enforcement mode. The enforcement mode means that you disallow to enroll some services. As an example, you set a rule to only allow some VM sizes in a special region or in a single allowed region, and your developer will enroll an additional size or not allowed size, VM size. Then you get a deny from the policy directly, or the developer becomes a deny directly for the service, and you can't enroll this service. This is really helpful and can save costs, can get you a better security, whatever. Second one is the scaling and the scoping, and this is also really helpful. So when you take a look at the Azure side, you have different scopes, like the tenant scope, the subscription scope, the resource group scope. And you can say, I will apply policies at different scopes, like it's a tenant whole, the tenant wide, or only some subscriptions, or some resource groups. Additional, behind subscriptions, there's available the management groups, and the management groups allows you to group a lot of subscriptions to one single group. This can be also helpful to say, I have two management groups like production and development, and I have some additional subscriptions to productions for development subscriptions, and then I can say I group this to two different management groups like production and development. And with the policy, I can say I will only allow some services at my production management group. This will include all my production subscriptions, and I will allow more VM sizes at my development subscriptions, and can apply this at my management group development, as an example. As the third part is the remediation. Think you have an environment, and you have some services in this environment, and you say, I will start with policies and I will get a better guardrails for my cloud environment. Then remediation really helpful, because remediation can help me to get the existing environment in a compliant state with the remediation task. We will take a look at later at this topic. Okay. So the concept behind the policy itself, firstly, you can create, assign and manage policies with the policy blade. You can also use DevOps or whatever you want, the Azure Resource Manager, functionality to define policies, but yeah, you can also use a portal, and there you have 3 options: create, assign, and manage policies. You can, I have seen, you can enforce some rules to get a secure way that you can only allow some services or some VM sizes or some locations, or as an example that all your resources must be tagged. And this is yeah, really helpful and important to know. So another way is there are 3 wording interesting words. Firstly, a definition is a set of conditions that you can define in audit or deny mode. Audit mode means compliance mode, deny mode means enforce mode. You can set an assignment, and an assignment is a policy definition that you can place on different scopes like management group scope, subscription scope, resource group scope. And an initiative is a collection of policies, a group of policies. This is important to know about the concepts in the backend of Azure Policies. So why Azure Policies is really helpful, and this yes, compared to the Azure architecture itself. I have called this the Azure governance architecture, but in general this is the Azure architecture itself. And Microsoft changed some years ago from the classic portal to the new portal, and there they included one central place for all my a control plane, and this is called Azure Resource Manager, where you can see here. And this is really good and allows us and Microsoft a lot of services and a lot of functionality, because all your controls, all your updates, all whatever you want and do with the cloud, going to this single pane of glass. We call going to the Azure Resource Manager. So when you use a portal, use a DevOps pipeline, a PowerShell script, the Cloud Shell, whatever you need, use, all your questionnaire, your changes to the portal going to the Azure Resource Manager layer. And then the layer will focus to create, update, or delete the workloads that you assign with your script, with the portal blade, whatever. And in this layer, in this Azure Resource Manager layer, they integrated the policy engine. And this is really helpful because with this functionality, the policy engine can directly check when you have, you generate a VM, the policy engine checks directly, is your VM in a compliant state? And then you can say, I will only allow or only audit the functionality, or I will deny some functionality, like I doesn't allow some VM sizes, or I will only allow some regions in my tenant or in my subscription, whatever scope I selected. And this is really really powerful, because I have one single layer, the Azure Resource Manager layer, and in this layer is integrated the policy engine, and all my all my updates going directly to this layer and will checked directly by the policy engine. When you take a look at why is policy so helpful, so you see some different functionality on this slide. And it can be helpful from security side. We will go a little bit later to the Security Center itself. It can be helpful from the compliance side. So in general, there are a lot of templates available to get a subscription in a compliance state. So think about, you have an application, and you will that this application is accessible from your customer, and you define this application and get a website, or bring a website online about this application, and you will that this application is specified about some ISO norms, then you can apply a policy, a template policy that integrate all the ISO norms directly to the resource group, to the subscription, wherever your application is running. And then you get a really helpful functionality to get to check and secure that your application is really compliant into this norm. Really helpful also the tagging. I love tags because tags are really helpful, really powerful for some additional informations, for automation tasks, whatever, and more in the cloud. So please use tags, and with a policy you can say, I need a specified tag at a resource group or at a service, whatever. I mean, it's really helpful for my environment. Cost management can be also helpful for policy, and many, many more. This is a short overview. What can you do and achieve with Azure Policy? So how does it work? And I give you a short overview about Azure Policy and as Azure Resource Manager. So, and when we here see a user or a code fragment, and this going to the resource config request and going to the ARM layer. And into the ARM layer, we have the Azure Policy layer. The Azure Policy layer checks this request and will allow or disallow this request. And in evaluation, we have in general 5 different evaluation scopes. This is the appendant, the audit if not exists, the deny mode, or the deploy if not exist. Appending means you can say I will append some additional information. Audit is only I will log the config request. Audit if does not exist is additional. So when you have deploy a VM but you have missed the monitoring or the backup itself, then you get also an audit message about this in your policy blade. And the deploy if not exist checks after 15 minutes it's your resource compliant with your policy. The other thing is the deny mode. It's quite the same. The request going to the policy layer, but then you have a policy that blocked a VM in this specified region. Then you get a deny and your customer or the code can't enroll this service. You see the checked. The service doesn't allow and not enrolled in your service or in your environment, and you get a deny, and the service will not enrolled in your tenant or in your subscription. I think enough the words. We will take a look at the blade, at the portal blade. So here we are. We're going to the policy blade itself. Here you see in general the whole policy view blade. It's loading, and the firstly what did you see is the scoping. And here you can say I will scope that I see the general compliance of my selected scope, and these scopes can be management groups or subscriptions. You see I have 4 different subscriptions in this tenant, and I see the resource compliance status for one subscription for this selected subscription, but I can change this in general to all my subscriptions. Then you see on the fly they will flash the blade. Then I see the overall resource compliance state for all my resources that are available in this tenant. And you see I have generate and integrate some additional tags, some additional services, policies like allowed locations, a set of regions at whatever, and some additional policies itself. And this is the general overview about the Azure policy. When we take a look at the left side, we see different options. You get a getting started blade, a compliance status where we get the whole and compliance state of all the things, and we get also compliant and non-compliant resources, and we can drill into this resources and get an overview about which services are not compliant with my definition. So I see a lot of services. Some are generated by Microsoft. You see this with the ID. Some I have integrated itself. And then you see where these services are located and on which policy are not compliant the service are. So, and you see a lot of services, lot of functionality in the activity log. When we take a look at a little bit deeper, here you see some additional services that I have enrolled in different regions, and I have say I will only allow, or I will monitor and compliance that the allowed services only exist in West Europe or in Europe in general, like West Europe, North or Europe. And then you see why some services are not compliant with my defined policy. So we're going a little bit deeper to the definitions, and in the definitions blade I can define policies. I can define a single policy, or I can define a group of policy with this functionality. I can also export some definitions, but in general this was the interesting part here. So when we take a look at policy definition, I can say in which location, which are the definition are located. So I can say in which scope, at which level this policy will be applied or can be applied. So I say this is more for the management group MVP. I select this one, and then can I say some additional service. And this is a new policy definition where I can say I create a custom policy. And then you see I can select I can create a category, some custom policy, or can use from existing categories. Here you see some available, and at the end you see the policy definition, and all policies are defined with JSON, and the whole structure is also the same. You see a mode, a policy rule with an if a then statement. So you see location, load locations, and you can say the effective mode of this policy, audit or deny, and you can also say the parameters with for this policy definition. So this is the whole functionality of a policy itself. You can generate your own policies, you can use from an existing one, and all policy based on JSON in the backend. Going back, and when we say I will take a group of policies, I go into this one here. Then I can also say which scope I will select it, this group, and then I have some basic I can set a version, but I prefer to use a DevOps pipeline within a version control. Versioning by manually, it's really stressful. Then you can define some policy definitions. You can add some policies, available policies to your group. Like I will select some with tagging, then we see some tags, and I can say I will need a tag or add a tag to a subscription level. I will tag and resource groups and resource groups level. I add this to this functionality. I'm going to the group where I can create a group of different topics. Like I have a big group of policies, and I will define some additional groups in it. And then I can go to the initiative parameters, where can I see set parameters for these policies, and then I going deeper to the last steps. Here you see I can set the requirements that are needed for this tagging. I can can define a own value, or can use a value from the initiative parameter, where I will, it's by me, but in general, to start, it's helpful to start with the value itself. Okay, we're going back and going to the assignment. And here at the assignment, you see I have assigned different policies at different different scopes. And I have selected or deploy a policy that say, please enroll and deploy a local analytics agent on all of my Windows VMs on my production subscription. So when I create an additional VM in this production subscription, I going secure that all my VMs get the local analytics agent automatically deployed by the policy. Okay, you see some additional policy that I have deployed. Some are coming from Microsoft services, like the auto-managed service define also some policies in the backend for the own functionality. And here you see that some services in the Azure space create his own policy to run and to get in a compliant state. Okay. When I assign a policy, I can assign a single policy, I can assign a group of policy. When I assign a policy, I can also select the scope. In general, management group layer, I can give an exclude some subscriptions or some resource groups. In general, when I have I will only allow some services in my production environment, but my production environment has a test resource group here, then I can exclude this test resource group from my whole policy definition. Then I go into the save. Then I can select a policy definition, and here you see the whole available policy definitions right now, and there are many more available in the Microsoft GitHub repository. So take a look at this. You get the link at the end of the session, and you can also search some about some available definitions and templates, like the region. Location is named location. Then you see some load locations is built-in policy. You can copy the policy to when you say I'm not familiar with this policy, or this is not the right policy for me. You can copy this policy and make some additional information and implement some additional sets on rules on this policy and get your own one. You see I have copied this policy and get an own load location policy. I can select this one, and then this is an important point here. You can say to enforce this policy, to enforce the mode, or to set the policy in the audit mode. So please start this policy in the audit mode. So whenever you start with policy, set the policy in the disabled state, and not going to start with policy itself with the enforcement mode. This can be some service functionals in the backend for your microservices. And then I can go to the load location, can select on all available locations where I will only allow to deploy some services. Okay, here you can say set a remediation for available resources itself. Then you create a managed identity, and the managed identity will check to bring your existing resources in a compliant state. But please note, they will not change or not deny or or shut down existing workloads when you set a deny mode for a policy. This is only available or for new enrollments. You can say and set an additional own message when you say I will deny some services. Then you can define a compliance message for your customer. They get this message when they not compliant with your policy. Okay, so, and this is all. I will going back in the general of the time. The time is running really fast. So this is in general the policy overview, and I will go into the resource group, and I have defined a policy where I say that all my resource groups need a special tag, like the environment tag, that I can say, see, is this resource group for development, for production environments, and this is really important for me, for my environment. So then I can select the region, and then you see I have some tags, and here is the environment tag. That this tag must be set for all my resource groups. So I going a little bit later. You see the validation is passed, but only when I create this resource, the ARM template or the ARM in general going to the layer of the Azure Resource Manager and will checked by the policy layer itself. So when, and you see when I take a look at the create, the session, the service cannot be enrolled with because there's an error of the deployment, and then we see that this this service is disallowed by policy, and I hope this will be fixed. The own message that I have defined is only available here, but in general this will change in some months, that this message will showing here directly in the red banner. But it's really helpful, and now you see when I deploy a service in general with my resource group, I can't deploy this when I have say I must set a tag. So we're going back, I will set this tag, then I going the next one, and now you see the resource group was created. Okay, I hope this gives you some information about the Azure Policy itself. Now we're going back to the slide deck and going deeper to the next topic. And here you see the definition structure that I have shown you in the demo. And now we're coming to the Security Center. And in general, I have say the Security Center and the policy itself, it's your cloud guards and really helpful. And Security Center has more, the policy has more the compliance, the governance focus. The Security Center has a focus on security in your whole environment. And the Security Center is really helpful to strengthen your security into your environment. This is available in 2 tiers right now, in the basic and in general in the standard tier, but the standard tier is renamed to the Azure Defender tier. The basic tier is free, and it's activated by default for all your subscriptions. And I will show you this in an additional demo, because when you create a new subscription in your environment, in general, Microsoft creates a group of policies for this subscription by default, and this this group of policies is based as an example for your security posture in the Security Center. The Security Center itself is available for all workloads right now. There are many workloads that are supported by the Security Center. So the Security Center is helpful in general for the whole environment and for workloads directly, for some workloads that you have running on your VMs, like a SQL server or some IoT services, whatever you want. The Security Center can be helpful for these 2 aspects. Yeah, here you see this is, yeah, what I say. It's one from the security posture itself, from your environment looks like, and for your workload running, also really helpful for some threats and to protect for some threats on your workloads. The Security Center itself has many functionality. I will be going to the demo and to show this live. So when we go into the Security Center, here you have a link directly to the Security Center, and then you see also that the Security Center are scope-based. So when I selected only one subscription, I see the secure score on this whole environment, on this whole subscription itself. So I can select and change the scope here and select some additional subscriptions, and then I get a reload of this secure score and get an additional score of my available resources. I'm going back to the prod environment. And then you see the compliance, the secure score. The secure score is based on a percentage view. You see, the secure score is a percentage view of your environment. You can take a look and drilling into the recommendations. Then you see some recommendations, and with which each realized recommendation you earn some points, and this points going to your security score, and then you get a higher score. You see some shortly points. The highest point you get with enable MFA for some services. When you doesn't use MFA for some accounts that they have access to your subscriptions. So take a look at this, and then you see some additional hints. And this, I can say, it's also really important because I have many customers. They are using VMs with public IPs without security groups, and where the management ports are open. So take a look. Security Center can be really helpful to see this and to find these workloads. They are not compliant and not securely by default, or not secure from a Microsoft perspective and from a Microsoft recommendation. I have many more options here. The getting starting is really also important because you can enable the Defender, the standard tier, only allow for some subscriptions. So you doesn't have to deploy the Defender for all your subscriptions or for your all services. You can select directly by the installing which service must be protected by the Defender service. So you can say, select the subscription, and then you can additionally select some server or some app services, whatever you want to protect directly by the Azure Defender. The recommendations you have seen, where can I get a list of my recommendations, this is really helpful. When I have available the recommendation or the Azure Defender itself, then I get some Azure Defender information here for my workloads. So, and then we take a look here, and you see I have integrated some on-prem workloads, some on-prem servers directly into my Azure Security Center. This is possible with Azure Arc, and I have a Windows 10 deployment that was where has Azure Arc installed, and this service are integrated into my Azure Security Center Defender status. When we take a look at this machine, we get some security alerts, and I have defined this Windows 10 machine as an honeypot with a public IP. And here you see that we have many activity on this management port on the public IP. So we can take a look at this. You see the activity time. You can take a look at the few full details, and then you see that many accounts will trying to log into this remote desktop protocol with this sign-in names. And you see also, this is really important, has the session initiated, so has some brute force attack was true or was possible. This is not the case, so the Windows machine was not affected by right now, but you see it's really important to avoid an open management port on a public interface for all your services. And you see this can be also for some, the Security Center can be helpful for workloads in Azure, but it also can be helpful for services that are running into my on-prem environment, like some Windows servers. Then I can deploy the Azure Arc agent, and the Azure Arc agent brings my machine directly to the Security Center, and then so I get a whole security posture about my whole environment. Like I have some machines in GCP, whatever I want, then I can also see these machines and the status in this Security Center, and I get the alerts from these machines directly in one central blade. And I think this is really helpful and a power of this Security Center. When we take a look in the backend, and you see I have here some recommendations here, and I have seen the recommendation based on Azure Policy. Here you see my recommendations for this subscription. When we take a look back on the policy blade, and we taking a look at here at my whole compliance view, you see that I have some group of policy definitions, and this is called ASC. And you see, when I create a new subscription, I get a group of Microsoft generate a group of policy definitions and group this for my subscription, enable this only on my subscription level, scoped on this subscription, and I see and this policy is based for my Security Center recommendation. So I have saying I have 4 subscriptions available in this policy, in this tenant. Here you see all these 4 available policies, and you see I have 4 Azure Security Center policy definitions or groups. 1, 2, and 1 here, 3 and 4. Yeah, and this is a base for my Azure Security Center definition. Okay, so in general, I see I'm running out of time. I will going forward, but yeah, you see the secure score is in general based on the scope that you defined, and you can working to get a higher secure score on the recommendation blade. And when you enable Azure Defender, the Azure formerly known as Azure Security Center standard tier, then you get additional threat protection on your workloads for your SQL workloads, for your storage account, for your Windows servers, and you can select to enable the threat protection, the Azure Defenders tier, only for some additional services. Can be quite helpful to get security only for your production workloads, or sometimes it's be more helpful to get security more on your development tools, but this is up to you. And yeah, additional information is with the management group level. Here, this is really quite interesting. On this page, you get a view on your hierarchy model about your management group level. Okay, I will going back to the slide deck. Yeah, the Security Center based recommendation based on Azure Policy, I have shown you this in the demo, is also as a result of the Azure Policy settings. And you can also define custom security policy for a secure score and define this on the management group level. This is really helpful to get more out of the Security Center. So recap, please use Policy and Security Center for your tenant. It's really helpful to deploy some policies, to get a better governance, to get guardrails for your cloud environment. Start with an audit modus. Don't start directly with the deny mode. Please get some experience with the Azure Policy in audit mode, and then a little later stage starting with the deny effect. Define the policies as a group, as different scopes, like the management group, and use the deny mode with wisdom for some production workloads. The Security Center itself, you can start directly with the Security Center because it's free in the basic tier and has a lot of helpful information about your viewing and your environment, and integrate the policy and the Security Center itself in your regular Azure check. So take a check on your Azure environment every week and take a look at the Security Center status and your policy status to get and to working on your security and your cloud security posture. Okay, this is an overview about the Security Center itself. Here you have some additional links about the session. I hope I can give you some helpful information, a good overview and some insights about to use policy in Security Center and how it works together. And when you have questions, reach me via Twitter. Feel free to reach me via mail. And I hope you enjoy the session. And I will say goodbye. And I hope you enjoy the next session. Bye-bye.